Hello, welcome back. This is lesson number 7, only 2 more to go. In the previous lesson, we looked at resources and compensation, and I hope you've been thinking about those for your own DAO. In this lesson, we'll be looking at information and meetings. So how do we share data and use that data? How does the data flow? And also, how do we convene and coordinate amongst ourselves? Now, these topics might seem a bit dry, but I'm sure you'll find something useful. Let's jump in. Legacy organizations have always been a bit tight-lipped with their information. In a lot of traditional companies, having information is like having power, so folks keep it to themselves. They think it will make them look good, keep their job safe, and prevent others from using it the wrong way. So they only share it when they really have to. Now, the big issue here is that a lot of this comes from 2 ways of thinking. Number 1, the idea that you just can't trust people. And number 2, the fear that if you give that information out, you'll lose your power. But here's the kicker. If we were more open and shared our information more freely, we'd likely be able to do far more amazing things as organizations and as a species. Imagine you've got a huge network of tiny parts all working together, but no one's bossing them around. They follow simple rules and somehow they create this amazing, complicated behavior. They learn from experience and even change over time. That's what Professor Melanie Mitchell from the Santa Fe Institute calls a complex adaptive system. Think of it like a hive mind that's way smarter together than any one part on its own. DAOs are no different. DAOs are complex adaptive systems. They are like smart networks, and everything they do depends on sharing information and learning from each other. If we really tap into this shared brain power, we can do incredible things. But what's a bit weird though is that we don't really focus much on how we find, keep, and share our knowledge. We should be learning from nature and how it uses diverse information and smart incentives to solve problems. If we can get the hang of that, we'll be onto something really great. It's difficult to overstate the degree to which DAOs should value and practice transparency. Imagine you're working on a giant puzzle with friends and each person has different pieces. Now, you might find a piece that fits somewhere, but maybe it's not in the area that you're working. Now, you need to make sure that that piece gets to your friend who needs it. In a DAO, great ideas can come from anywhere, but they only help if the right person gets the right information at the right time. Economists call this information symmetry. So everyone in a DAO needs to be able to get the information they need in order to do their job well. Even if we default to trust and give contributors the freedom and autonomy to serve the organization's purpose, they can only do so if they have all of the right information available to them. In DAOs, transparency is a feature, not a bug. We have to embrace transparency. We may be inclined to withhold information from our public forums and Discord channels out of a tendency to maintain competitive advantage against others outside of our DAO. But Aaron Dignan has this great quote in his book, Brave New Work. He goes on to say, "We must accept that no one knows what information will prove to be critical, or in which hands information might change everything. More and better information and more and better ways to make sense of it is the source of competitive advantage in complexity." In an open and permissionless network like a DAO, the pros of open information far outweigh the cons of competing organizations or network having the ability to see what you're doing. So when it comes to maintaining your competitive advantage, we err on the side of information transparency over information siloing. Apps such as Google's Workspace, Trello, Charmverse, Clarity, and Wonderverse all allow multiple users to create and edit documents, files, and data simultaneously. At Colony, we use Notion to document and record our knowledge base. Everything is open to everyone else inside the Meta Colony. So instead of information flying around from inbox to inbox, everyone shares a single source of truth that is always just one click away. Teams can co-author presentations, documents, and even entire projects synchronously or asynchronously, and of course, fully remote. Our code is fully open source and visible on GitHub, and all contributors have access to work in progress. Our product designers work in Figma, which is also open and visible to everyone else in the DAO. Community and growth also use FigJam extensively for brainstorming and whiteboarding, with all files being open to everyone else. Now, there are many new Web3 tools springing up, such as Charmverse and Clarity, so although we are using Notion currently as our knowledge base, I'm sure we'll explore other alternatives in the future. When a culture is risk-averse and teams lack the authority to make decisions about their own work in progress usually goes underground. Because teams know that if they share incomplete or imperfect work, leadership will likely poke holes in it and question their competence. So we end up with cultures where everything has to be perfect before it is shared. This leads to information silos that hurt everyone. Because two teams working on the same thing won't know about it until it's too late. And anything and everything that could have been repurposed or reused is trapped in place. Instead, we can work in public, so developing our work in applications and environments that are visible to and searchable by everyone else in the DAO. At Colony, all our work in progress is public and open to everyone else within the DAO. All teams have links to all of the projects that everyone else is working on, and it is viewable by them. The growth team, for example, can see how the product designs are developing. Developers can see where the marketing campaign is, and product team members can see the progress of software development of all current features. It's always better to share things with your fellow contributors too early than too late. So see if you can cultivate a culture that defaults to openness. But it's not only work in progress that should be open to all other teams. Communication should be open too. That's where messaging apps like Discord, Slack, Geneva, and Telegram come in. At Colony, not only do we house our community in Discord, but we also keep all other internal communication across the entire DAO there. No communication anywhere else. Now, of course, I'm probably preaching to the converted here already, and I'm sure most of you use Discord or similar tools for communication. But it's also really important to remember not to use back-channeling and private DMs as much as possible. Default to communicating in your relevant public channels where any contributor has access to these conversations. If you're unsure, just ask yourself, am I 100% certain no one else could benefit from this discussion? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. At Colony, we also have a channel called Daily Stand-Up, where each team member at the start of the day answers the following 3 questions. Number 1, what did I do yesterday? Number 2, what have I got planned for today? And number 3, are there any impediments in my way? This part of our team rhythm helps us keep ourselves accountable, focus on the larger quarterly goals, and provides clarity to the rest of the teams. It's just another way of increasing open communication across the DAO. Increased transparency is critical in the early stages of transforming your DAO's operating system because it's a prerequisite for making sound decisions. One of the most common mistakes we see teams make is taking a swing at empowerment before ensuring transparency, giving DAO members the authority to make decisions, but keeping information confidential and on a need-to-know basis. So what ends up happening? Well, people make decisions without the benefit of crucial information. And then those decisions are subpar and the leadership cries, "See, people cannot be trusted to make decisions." Avoid this by focusing on sharing early and often. Make it safe, make it habitual. Because when shared consciousness is high, everything else gets much easier. With most DAOs gathering their community inside of Discord, it's common to see servers structured with transparency in mind too. Of course, this varies greatly from DAO to DAO, but at Colony, we essentially have 3 layers of trust. Layer 1 has a set of channels which are open to everyone joining our Discord server. Layer 2 has an additional set of channels which are open to those who hold Colony's native token, CLNY. The third and final layer adds all of the channels across our entire server and is open to anyone with reputation in the meta colony, meaning they are a member of the DAO. So anyone who does work for the meta colony and earns reputation gets access to everything, just like the rest of the core team. Another powerful way to be transparent with the wider DAO community is to host regular community calls or AMAs. This is a very popular ritual, which most DAOs are hosting on a monthly or a bi-weekly basis. The goal of these sessions is to provide the DAO community with updates, news, and tackle tough questions head on. With AMAs in particular, you'll find that a founder or a core contributor tends to answer questions directly from the community. That's you. These rituals really build trust, confidence, and credibility, so it's something that we would highly recommend if you're not doing so already. The average employee attends 62 meetings a month and considers more than half of those meetings a waste of time. Meanwhile, in our current times, new tools have emerged that allow the more technologically savvy amongst us to communicate and coordinate across space and time, virtually, synchronously, and asynchronously, which is the case for practically all DAOs. Now, it's probably fair to say that all DAOs have adopted some form of messaging applications like Discord, Telegram, Geneva, or Slack. But working in this asynchronous manner has resulted in some DAOs attempting to avoid meetings altogether, casting them out as wasteful and unnecessary in the future of work. But to think that meetings have no place in the future of work would be a grave mistake. Like it or not, great meetings offer higher bandwidth, that's more information per second, than any other form of communication. When we communicate via Discord or Telegram, we have the option to communicate synchronously or asynchronously, but we cannot hear each other and we cannot see each other. And we have a limited ability to express or interpret comprehension, emotion, and energy. But when we meet in person or on video in real time, we communicate synchronously and we can hear one another to sense that audible emotion and energy. We can see one another and sense bodily language and visible emotion and energy. A million years of evolution didn't evaporate because we can now work asynchronously. If we want to trust and if we want vibrant networks, then eventually we will have to meet. So the goal is then not to eliminate meetings, as they are necessary, but to eliminate unproductive and non-essential meetings. At Colony, we only have 3 recurring organizational meetings. The first is the quarterly OKR meeting, where we grade ourselves on the previous quarter's objectives and key results. We also set ourselves new OKRs for the quarter ahead. The second type of meeting is the bi-weekly sprint meetings. This is where each team communicates what they said they would do during the sprint and also marks each task accordingly. The team also shares what they aim to achieve during the next 2-week sprint. All tasks within the sprint must be in alignment with this quarter's OKRs. If it's not an objective, then we shouldn't be working on it. All teams get a chance to do this so that the entire organization knows what's going on. The third and final type of recurring meeting is a quarterly operating system meeting. The goal of this meeting is for everyone to have a chance to voice their concerns and propose local changes to policies, structures, strategies, and agreements we have in place. Anything that will help us improve the organization's operating system. It gives us a short feedback loop on any decisions that we made collectively via the advice process or consent process, and nothing is set in stone, and it's important for us to keep testing our own assumptions, and this meeting facilitates that. I'd finally like to cover some meeting tips or hacks which can improve the effectiveness of your meetings. Meetings can actually be made more productive and efficient. The first tip is to start meetings by checking in. Begin with a question that allows everyone to connect on a human level. In the world of DAOs where everyone is hiding behind an avatar, it's easy to forget that we're all fellow contributors and real humans. Asynchronous communication can become very transactional, so start your meetings by checking in. At Colony, we pick a random person to pose an icebreaker question to the rest of the teams, or they can choose a Discord game to play for 15 minutes in small groups. It really helps us to connect everyone and elevate the energy in a fun and informal manner before the real meeting starts. The second tip is to speak and participate in rounds. When you really need to prioritize speed and inclusion in a meeting, go around the virtual table and give everyone a chance to provide updates, ask questions, offer feedback, or give consent depending on the type of meeting that you're holding. Everyone else is invited to listen respectfully and wait for their turn to speak. Now, you'll notice that this is exactly the process for IDM, integrative decision making, and that is because it's a very effective way to get everyone's input and make decisions quickly. Now, it may seem a bit awkward at first, but with practice, it becomes really good. The third and final tip is to appoint a facilitator. One of the best ways to increase meeting effectiveness is to ensure that someone is responsible for the structure and the flow and the output of every meeting. Now, to do so, appoint a facilitator. The facilitator's role is to keep the meeting on track, enforcing whatever format and ground rules the team has agreed upon. They must make sure that no one hijacks the agenda and the meeting doesn't overrun. Again, we've mentioned previously that a facilitator is crucial for the IDM meetings, so start playing around with this idea to really see the benefits. Okay, that's all the content for lesson number 7. Here's what you need to do next. In your homework document, I'd like you to tell us what your tool stack is for creating, storing, and organizing information in the DAO. Also, write down all the DAO's recurring meetings and their purpose. Please complete these questions in your homework document ready for submission at the end of the next lesson. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next final lesson very soon. Good luck.